Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an audio episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, June 4th, 2025. So we start off with Hope and Bo. So Bo is beautifully recovering and Hope is getting them, set up into their place. And, she's just grateful that she has, the love of her life back. She just can't believe that he's there, he's conscious. And, Bo is happy to be there with her. And, he thinks about how, all those years back, he's just sorry for how he acted. And she doesn't blame him because, again, it wasn't under his, it was out of his control, right? So, he's just glad to be there. He knows he's missed so much so far. And, she's not worried about the past. She's just worried, more focused on the future that they have together. So while that's happening, Sierra and Sean, they're at their dad's, hospital bed. And Sierra's just thankful that, their dad is up and about. And she thanks Sean. She said, you're a hero. If it wasn't for you, dad wouldn't be, conscious and, just out of his coma. So he said that, don't really thank me. It was really a whole team. It was not only me, it was Steve, it was Kayla, it was mom, and John, of course, right? So Sierra goes out to go look for her parents, and Sean gets a call from Kayla. So he's asking Kayla, she's asking about Boy. He said that he's all right, he's up and about. And, he asked about John, how's he recovering? So she said that, she told him the bad news. And he said, no, this can't be like, I was really thinking he's going to pull through. So, he's just really devastated by the whole news. Chanel and Johnny. So Johnny is getting ready for his first day at Titan the Mirror. And Chanel is saying, look, you have to go call out. So he's like, why? I'm ready to take it on. So she said, your Aunt Carrie called, and that's when she told me the devastating news about your grandpa John, that he passed away. So Johnny is shocked by it because last time they checked, last time he checked, he was there with him the other night. He was, recovering. And, he just can't believe that it's just so sudden for him, right? And he just feels bad because, he's named after him and he doesn't feel like he's living up to his name. He doesn't really fulfill anything. And Chanel said, don't beat yourself up. Like, you are living up to his name and you are going to be on your own path. You're going to continue to be the man that you are destined to be. You have a heart of gold just like him. So don't think you're not or you're farther from him, right? So she's just there to encourage him. And he said that he needs to go over to his grandma. He doesn't know the right words to say, but she said, look, there are no perfect words. We just have to be there, right? So they do go over to Marlena's place and they just offer support for her. That was really it. So the actors are really giving raw emotion on, this whole week. It's definitely giving raw and uncut emotion. And we're there, sobbing and bawling with them as well because this man has been, near and dear to all of them, right? So Paul is there. He's looking on the picture of him and his dad and he's just, breaking down. And, Andrew comes in. Andrew said that he heard about the news about his dad. He just wanted to be there, offer him some comfort. So he hugs him, tells him that, they're going to get through this. So Paul starts talking about how, they weren't so close at first, but then they developed a relationship and he's just happy that he had that time with him. But at the same time, he's a little bit selfish because he just felt like, he shouldn't have been the hero regarding Bo and Bo's recovery, right? Because Andrew even told him that Bo is getting better. Of course, it rubs Paul a little way because of course, he's happy for Bo and he's recovered, but at the same time he lost his father. And at the end of the day, it's not selfish, it's not inhumane to feel that way. You should feel a type of way because at the end of the day, like your father didn't have to do it, but at the same time, this is who he is. He's going to risk his life for the people he loves. So it's kind of like in the middle, and it's fine to feel whatever feelings you are feeling, right? So he doesn't even think he could go through with the wedding, and Andrew understands. And that was really it. So Will, Carrie, and Eric there at the house. also supporting Marlena, and realized that Marlena was out. She was at the square, just talking to Tom and Alice's plaque, and just remembering how she and John got married in the square one time. They've been married quite a few times, so every one of them kind of stand out in their own way. So she comes back and she was telling them what she did, and they're offering just support and said that they needed to be there for her. They don't want her to do anything alone. So she said she has to learn to be alone at this point, and she needed that strength by talking to Tom and Alice to really do the next step, which is to really inform John's father of his passing. And she went into the room to really go through their last will and testament because of what happened with Julie and Doug. And it turns out they wanted to be just like them. Thinking about that when they reached the century mark, but turns out life has a funny way of happening, and she had to look through that of what John would like. So one of the things John would like was I guess a reception at the pub. So Carrie and Will decided to go over there to organize that. So she and Eric get to talking, and Eric is just saying that, look, I'm here for you, and she appreciates him being there to talk and all of that, right? We did find out what happened to Sammy and Sydney, why they're not there. So Sydney suffered a big accident. It messed up her collarbone and her arm, so she can't come to the memorial, so they can't go on the flight. So I guess we'll see Sammy later on, because Sammy is expected to come for the funeral. So let's see how that goes out. So Sierra is at the house with her dad and her mom, and she's just really ecstatic to see her dad, and her dad is just happy to see her because it's been so long, right? A lot has happened. She's gotten married, she's has 2 kids, so now he's surprised. He's playing catch up because a lot has happened in 2 years. Sean comes over, and he's happy to see him, and Sean is still feeling guilty about what happened to him those past 2 years. He's still blaming himself, still feeling guilty. And Sean, boy saying, look, you don't have no need to be guilty. It is all Megan's fault why I missed those 2 years. Don't blame yourself, right? You are a great man. So that kind of made him feel a little bit better about the situation. And they just play catch up about what's happened in Salem. So he tells Bo about that he has a half brother. It actually turned out to be Xander, and now they're co-CEOs, Philip and him. And he tells them about, or they tell Bo about what happened, who has passed away recently, Doug and then Victor. So that really hit Bo because their relationship was really complicated, and he was, you know, really getting close with Victor in the last couple of years. So he really felt that one. They didn't tell him about John as yet, but I know that when that comes, it will definitely hit him. But yeah, he has definitely missed out on a lot. And at some point Sierra brings her children to see Bo, and Bo is happy to see his namesake, Bo Jr. and Addie. So Sierra leaves at some point and gives Bo and Hope some time to really talk about what has happened, and that they're overwhelmed about all the news, happy, sad, all kind of feelings. So Paul and Andrew did meet up with Carrie and Will, and they're exchanging condolences. Even with Carrie, she's not biologically related to John, but at the same time, John raised her. So, Paul is offering her condolences, and, they're talking about how Shane and John would always do missions together. Now look at their sons being together. So they did make their way back over Marlena's place, and Paul is just he doesn't really have much words to say, but he knows that John really loved Marlena, and Marlena knows that already. And they were trying to postpone the wedding, but Marlena said, no, let's do it. We need some celebration. And, Paul said, okay, we'll do it in John's honor. So back to, Hope and Bo. Sean comes back over. Bo is resting. So, Hope is saying, she's just excited to have their dad, have Bo back. And, Sean is telling her, look, I talked to Kayla. So she said, what's happening with John? I've been praying for him. Is he okay? So, he said he has really bad news. So he tells her that, John didn't make it. So she's like, oh my gosh. And she hugged him, So now when the news got to be broken to Bo, I don't know how Bo is going to take it. And he's probably going to feel guilty because John really died risking his life to get him that drug. So it's definitely going to be yet another day of emotions. But yeah, they're doing their thing with this emotional roller coaster we're on. So they're doing a phenomenal job, all of these actors. But yeah, that is it, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to my channel. Comment below your thoughts on today's episode. I will see you guys tomorrow.